نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن الكريم والفرقان الحميد: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: من مات وعليه صيام شهر فليطعم مكان كل يوم مسكينا. رواه الترمذي. صدق الله مولانا العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. ربنا يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح ربي زدني علما. اللهم صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. My dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, we praise and we thank Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has blessed our souls in the month of Sha'ban, and we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He elongates our lives to the month of Ramadan. And in this regard, that is why we started the topic of Kitab al-Sawm in preparation for the month of Ramadan that is about to come. And we did different aspects of fasting. We mentioned about the definition of fasting so far. And we mentioned certain things that will not be permissible while fasting. We mentioned the different passageways whereby a person will not be allowed to enter anything while they are fasting: the brain, the stomach, the lungs. And we mentioned the different types of fast: fard fast, wajib fast, masnoon fast, mandub, nafil, makruhun tanzihan, and makruhun tahriman. Fard as in the month of Ramadan, wajib as the qadha of fast of Ramadan, wajib, the qadha of a nafil fast that was broken, masnoon fast, a sunnah fast, commendable fast, the 10th along with the 9th of Muharram, a desirable fast, mandub fast, fasting on the days which is known as Ayyamul Bid, the 13th, 14th and 15th, supererogatory fast, nafil fast, as fasting on any day we like, as long as it is not makruhun tanzihan. For example, fasting only on the 10th of Muharram, without fasting on the 9th or without fasting on the 11th. Or fasting can also be makruhun tahriman, such as fasting on any of the 2 days of Eid. We mentioned with regards to intention that for different fasts, there are different types of intention, wherein it becomes essential to have the intention at a certain time, and we spoke about that in detail the last day. And we mentioned for the fast of Ramadan, it would be essential to have that intention until half of the day. And we spoke about that, my dear respected brothers and sisters, with regards with examples. Today we continue with upon those whom the fast of Ramadan becomes compulsory. And that is important because sometimes a person may feel that they have to do something, but that may not necessarily be so. And even the fast of Ramadan, the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam has laid down many guidelines with regards to upon whom it is compulsory. The Sahaba saw that on journey, the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam broke the fast. And we will come to that inshallah. The point that has been made, all these factors that cause compulsion upon an individual with regards to fasting in the month of Ramadan, it came from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. First, the Holy Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykumus siyam. O those who believe, fasting has been made compulsory, has been ordained upon you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the other ayat, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Whosoever witnesses that month, let him fast. So, the fast of Ramadan becomes compulsory on a sane and baligh Muslim who finds the appropriate time of fasting in the month of Ramadan. So, as the ayat says, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Whosoever finds that month, let him fast. Whosoever finds that month, let him fast. It means that if a person were to pass away just on the night of Ramadan before actually they could witness the day, when the day comes in, then that fasting becomes compulsory. Now, they did not witness that day, they passed away. It is not essential for anyone to pay fidya on their behalf, etc. No one has to do anything, because now fasting has not become compulsory upon them. And we will come to see inshallah a few other scenarios whereby a person did not get the chance to make the qada of it, so therefore it may not be compulsory. So that person who finds the appropriate time of fasting in the holy month, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ, they actually witness the time in Ramadan, it becomes compulsory upon a sane individual. It means that a person who is not sane, a person who is mad, they are unaware of the laws of Sharia, they are unaware of things around them, they are mad, then the fast of Ramadan is not compulsory upon them. Likewise, a person who is not baligh, they have not reached the age of puberty, then the fast of Ramadan does not become compulsory upon them. We started in the chapter of Salah, we explained about maturity, we explained about the signs of maturity. How does this become important, my dear respected brothers and sisters? As we were saying, knowledge is important, and we have to know our limits. How far we can go, how far can we not go? And we also have to know with regards to our children. If they have not reached the age of puberty, then fasting does not become compulsory upon them. So therefore, a person may think that, you know what, my child has to fast, but it may not be essential upon them, and they are forcing the child to fast, which alhamdulillah does not normally happen. We are just mentioning by way of example for us to understand the point of a person has to be baligh. Normally, what people try to do with regards to training their children, they will let them fast for a portion of the day, and that is with regards to training, with regards to getting children accustomed to fasting. There's nothing wrong with that, because it is not compulsory upon them to fast. Just like, for example, my dear respected brothers and sisters, you have children who are learning the Holy Quran, and we spoke about this. They are sitting reciting the Quran. They do not have wudu. They are little children. They do not have that ihtimam and that concern and that worry about making wudu when their wudu becomes broken. So now we want them to memorize the Quran, because mashallah, they are at an age where their brain is like sponge. But if you make it mandatory upon them, then all different problems will occur. So a little child can be given the Quran to learn it, not to destroy it, ma'adallah, but to learn it, to memorize it, though they may not be in a state of purification. So likewise, a person, a child who may not reach the age of puberty, they, yes, should be trained with regards to fasting. You know, without making it difficult upon them, and the child is lying down on the bed and they need water, they need food, if they are not baligh, they have not reached the age of puberty, then it is not essential upon them to fast. And with regards to the signs of puberty, for a male, he starts to get wet dream, he can now have nocturnal emission, the mustache starts to grow, the beard starts to grow here under the armpits and the pubic areas. Likewise with regards to a woman, a young girl, here in these regions start to grow, these areas, and she starts to see her menses, in the absence of which the age of 15 is considered according to the Hanafi jurists. The age of 15 is considered according to the Hanafi jurists. So fasting will be compulsory upon a sane, a baligh Muslim who finds the appropriate time of fasting in the month of Ramadan. If the fast of Ramadan was not performed in Ramadan due to negligence or due to some valid excuse, according to the Sharia, then the qada of such fast will be compulsory. The same ruling will apply to the fast of more than one Ramadan. Now, fasting becomes compulsory on an individual. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, who does not make the fast of that day in Ramadan, they would not be capable of making up that same type of fast with regards to the virtue, even if they were to fast any number of days afterwards. And this is the importance of learning our deen, my dear respected brothers and sisters. The month of Ramadan, we spoke about it as being a means of reminding ourselves of our objective on the face of the earth. And imagine, there will be some people who unfortunately will not be fasting. For what reason? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, but there are reasons and guidelines that the Sharia has given to us. And this is how we as Muslims have to view things. The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said the believer is like a camel that if you ask it to sit down on a rock, it will kneel down and sit down on that rock. And the believer, no matter how difficult something may seem, a believer does it because they understand that this is a command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is something that must be done. We as Muslims are not allowed to use our own intellect with regards to, this boy is looking so skinny, this girl, she is always eating, so she cannot fast. This little boy is too skinny, he will drop down if he fasts. We are not allowed to make these types of qiyas. If I don't eat, I start to get gas pain, and the amount of gas pain I get, I can well imagine if I am fasting, so therefore I will not fast. Negligence would cause a person to have to make qada of that fast, but that is not something to take very lightly, because, my dear respected brothers and sisters, it means if a person, it's essential upon them to fast, and they do not fast, it means that they are disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Muslims are not allowed to behave like that. And we as believers, we are granted rope. And if a person does it, it does not mean that they may necessarily see something is going wrong with them. They may be eating and drinking during the day, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold them to account for not fasting. And that's a grave sin. It's a major sin not to fast on that day when they have to fast. So, if the fast of Ramadan, due to negligence or due to some valid excuse according to the Sharia, was not made, then the qada of such fast will be compulsory. The same ruling will apply to the fast of more than one Ramadan. It means that a person, he now starts to become dini, as we say. he now starts to become deendar and apply deen in his life, apply the laws of the Sharia in his life. Just as we mentioned about salah, the person may not have been performing salah for many years of his life. What does he have to do? He has to make qadha of all those salah that was compulsory upon him. Because why? It was essential that he performed it. And it meant that he was disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, him or her. So now, at an elderly age or middle age, whatever have you, they start to practice upon the Sharia. What do they have to do? Make qadha of all those salawat that they have missed. And in the chapter of salah, we mention how a person can do it with regards to estimation of calculation, and in that estimation, ensuring that a person goes beyond, not that a person checks less. Likewise, with regards to the fast of Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it compulsory that we only have to fast in the month of Ramadan. So therefore, what can a person do if they were negligent and they did not fast in the previous years and they were a Muslim, they were sane, they were baligh? Non-Muslims don't have to fast. So years on end they did not fast. Now what do they have to do? They have to make up that fast. After the month of Ramadan, they have to make qadha of those years that they did not fast. After the month of Ramadan, meaning a person in Ramadan cannot make qadha for other fasts. That is not permissible. A person in the month of Ramadan can only fast on behalf of that day of Ramadan. فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. That is the fulfilling of the fast of that particular time and that particular year. After the month of Ramadan, how many years ago the person will have to check how many years before they had reached the age of puberty and they were baligh and they did not fast. Now make an estimate and calculation. Maximum amount of days in the month of Ramadan can be 30, 29 or 30, but to be safe 30. And then check for the amount, how old they are. I am 40 years old. I have been performing fast for the last 5 years. So from the age of, let's say, 15, or if I remember that I had become baligh at the age of 12, 13, 14, so therefore from the age of 13, 14, or at the age of 15, until the age of 35, I have to make qadha of those fasts. Yes, of course, it's plenty. 30 days multiplied by that amount of years. But the thing is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not make this deen difficult. Had we performed the fast at the time when we were supposed to do so, it would have been very, very easy. And the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not difficult. Hence the reason why, even with regards to the women folk, we will come to them, they don't have to make qadha of salawat, because it's too much. When they are on their menses or on their afterbirth bleeding, they don't have to make up qadha for all those salawat, but they have to make qadha of fasts. So the Sharia makes it easy. Yes, 5 times a day, every day of the year, salah comes in, and we have to perform that. When a woman is on her menses, she will not be able to perform salah. No matter how much she desires to perform salah, she cannot. It's prohibited. Haram. She cannot do so. Now, after that, after those days, this is something from Allah. Allah has uplifted that upon her. So therefore, a person cannot think, grieve and now try to make qadha of those salawat. That is making things difficult. Allah has made it easy. This deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is easy. So just showing, my dear respected brothers and sisters, imagine on a woman, every month, generally speaking, her menses might come, so she does not have to make salawat up. But for the fasting, she has to make it up. So the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is easy, and even a person with many years of fasting, should not look at it as a burden, but they should understand that they have to make up these qadha. Whether a person now tries to make a tartib and they say, you know what, probably every Monday and Thursday I will make up for a fast, etc. You know, and the intention must be qadha fasting. The intention must be qadha fasts. So if a person does not do so, if a person does not perform the fast in Ramadan, they must make up for that compulsory fast. If the valid excuse for not performing fasts, such as sickness or weakness of old age, continues after Ramadan with no hope of recovering until death, then a monetary redemption fidya will be given to the poor and the needy for every missed fast of Ramadan. If one cannot afford such monetary redemption, then he will be absolved of the duty, but will seek the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If, however, the valid excuse terminates at any time, then it will be compulsory to perform the qadha of the missed fast to the extent of the days past without the valid excuse of sickness or weakness of old age until death. The monetary redemption is half a saw of wheat or its value for every fast of Ramadan missed due to sickness or weakness of old age with no hope of recovery until death. Now, we come onto the discussion about fidya with regards to the paying for the fast every day, fidya for that person who they are not capable of fasting. The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he has exempted certain people from fasting, and we will come to that inshallah. And he sallallahu alayhi wasallam mentions, Man mata wa alayhi siyamu shahrin falyut'am anhu makana kulli yawmin miskina. If a person dies with the month's fast due upon him, then a needy person must be fed against every day. If a person has a valid sickness, a valid excuse in the month of Ramadan, they have been warned by honest Muslim doctors or proper doctors that are honest, especially they are Muslim, you know, because Muslims will understand the ruling of the Sharia with regards to the importance of fasting. Some people, for flimsy reasons, they will not fast, as we started to explain in the beginning of this session. But if a sickness whereby a person really cannot fast because they have to take inhalers, as we have mentioned before, or they have to consume medication, then, or because of weakness of old age, they are too weak to fast, they are old, their bones are brittle, they cannot walk well, they have to eat, and even their eating is so little. But because of the weakness of old age, they are not capable of fasting, and there is no hope of recovery of sickness, or they will not get anything else but more old. If an old person, of course, mashallah, somehow or the other, you know, they start to exercise and they become more fit, whatever have you, and they are like a young man or a young woman and they can fast, then alhamdulillah. But if not, and the person's sickness still remains, then they will give fidya to the poor for every missed fast of Ramadan. And that amount of fidya is half of a saw. That amount of fidya is half of a saw at present. it's like around $13. At present, it is like $13. That is the amount of Sadaqatul Fitr also. Sadaqatul Fitr and Fidya have the same amount, is the same cost. Approximately 1.6 kgs of flour. So Sadaqatul Fitr at present is around $13. And for the sake of information, the Zakah Nisab with regards to silver is $2,442. $2,442 with regards to the Nisab of Zakah. So a person cannot just pay fidya because they are not fasting. If a person is not fasting on account of they had to do a surgery, they had to do an emergency surgery, or there was some sickness that was present with them, let's say for example they got some type of malaria, some type of detrimental disease that was being taken care of, and afterwards now they got cured. It's not that they paid fidya so they don't have to make it up. No, as long as shifa comes and the person is capable of fasting, then the person must make up for the qadha of those fasts. And sometimes a person asks the question, well, I already paid the fidya. Inshallah, that will be lillah, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the person did that in case they were not capable of fasting. But if a person gets the time afterwards to make up the compulsory qadha, then they must do so. And again, some people, they just don't fast because they think that they cannot fast. So they write one check. $13 multiplied by the entire month is not much at all. They write one check or they gather all the money in one and they pay fidya. And they think that will redeem them from absolve them from the responsibility of fasting. It doesn't work like that, my dear respected brothers and sisters. A person has to fast if they can fast. It's not like we have the option of fasting or paying fidya. Some people treat it like that. So in the beginning of the month, they pay fidya. And then they ask, can we pay for the entire month also? If we can fast, we cannot pay fidya. So the people who cannot fast, yes, they can pay the fidya. And they can pay the fidya all in one. 13 multiplied by the entire amount. There are different rulings, inshallah. But the point is, people should not use flimsy excuses for not fasting and then think they can just pay the fidya and that would absolve them from the compulsion of fasting. That will not work. If the valid excuse of journey continues after Ramadan until death, then the monetary redemption will not be considered compulsory, nor will the qadha of such misfast of Ramadan be considered compulsory. Such a person will be absolved of the duty. If, however, he forsakes the journey at any time, then it will be compulsory to perform the qadha of the missed fast to the extent of the days past without journey until death. What is being said here, my dear respected brothers and sisters, with regards to fasting upon journey, the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned the concession of not fasting when a person is upon journey. And when we speak about journey, it means a person who is traveling beyond the Shari'i distance of 48 miles, according to some scholars 52 miles. And we will mention that inshallah upon those whom it is permissible to delay the fast. We will mention the different ahadith of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But what is being mentioned here inshallah is that there are people who are allowed to delay the fast. And we will come to that. But for this example, a person was on journey. When they came back, they did not have time to make qada of the missed fast that they did. They will be absolved of paying fidya because they were on journey and they told themselves that when they came back, they will fast after the month of Ramadan. But it so happened they passed away. Then they will not have to pay the fidya for those particular fasts. But if the person finds the time, to fast after they have come back, then of course it will now be compulsory upon them to make up those fasts. So if the valid excuse of journey continues after Ramadan until death, then the monetary redemption will not be considered compulsory, nor will the qada of such missed fast of Ramadan be considered as compulsory. And if the person forsakes the journey at any time, then it will be compulsory to perform the qada of the missed fast to the extent of the days passed without journey until death. When death comes, then that is the amount of time that the person has to do any type of ibadat. So this is what is being mentioned here. The person he forsake his journey, and now he will have to make qada of that amount of days that he was allowed to make fast, because he only lived for that amount of time. And those that he did not make up for, then it will not be compulsory upon him, because he only lived for that amount of days to make up for a few days of the qada fast. If out of negligence one failed to perform the fast of Ramadan in Ramadan, and also failed to perform the qada of such fast, so much so that he died, then he will be questionable before Allah for all those missed fasts due to negligence, even though he had intention to perform them. If this scenario is mentioning a person, out of negligence, they failed to perform the fast of Ramadan and they did not do the qada of it. Now they died. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold them to account for not fasting as well as not making the qada, because they had the opportunity to do so. If due to a valid excuse one did not perform the fast of Ramadan in Ramadan, and thereafter out of negligence failed to perform the qada of those missed fasts, so much so that he died, then he will be questionable before Allah for all those qada fasts missed due to negligence, even though he had intention to perform them. So, as we mentioned before, if a person has to make qada of fasts, yes, there may have been a valid excuse. He was sick, he was hospitalized, she was pregnant, she was nursing a child. Now, they have to make qada. We rightfully said, a person, we cannot say it is essential for you to fast on Monday and you cannot delay it until Tuesday. Yes, it is compulsory, but it is compulsory on a broad scale. So now the person can say, yes, okay, I will not fast Monday, I will fast Tuesday. But they are also taking the risk. If they die without making up this fast, then they will have to account to Allah for why they did not make it up. So that is why it is advised the person should make up their compulsory qada as soon as possible. If due to negligence one did not perform the fast in Ramadan, or he did not perform the qada of the fast of Ramadan, so much so that he became sick or weak because of old age, with no hope of recovering until death, then it will be wajib upon him to give fidya for every neglected fast, and will seek the forgiveness of Allah and hope that he will not be questionable by Allah. If one did not give fidya, then it will be wajib upon him to advise his family before his death to pay fidya on his behalf. What is being mentioned here, my dear respected brothers and sisters? A person now, they did not fast. And now they said that they will make it up, but they always procrastinated and they did not fast until a sickness comes whereby they cannot fast. Sick with liver, sick with kidney, whatever have you. Or old age came upon them and they could not fast. Now it will be essential upon them to pay the fidya for those days that they did not make qada of. Because it is compulsory to make the qada, the only other alternative, if they cannot do so, is the fidya. So they can pay the fidya while they are alive, and yet still they will have to seek forgiveness in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and hope that Allah does not question them as to why I make tawbah and seek forgiveness in Allah, because they were supposed to make the qada but they did not do so. Now they are paying fidya and they had time to make the qada. And we spoke already about those people who do not have the time. If a person did not give the fidya, then they should leave a wasiyat, they should leave a bequest, they should inform their relatives, pay fidya on my behalf, and of course they have to let them know how much fidya to pay. And it brings us to the other masla with regards to, if that is done, then it will be essential upon the inheritors of that individual to pay up to 1/3 of the wealth, up to 1/3 of the wealth of the individual in fidya. So let's say the fidya goes beyond 1/3 of the wealth. They can only give up to 1/3, or if the inheritors of this wealth agrees that we will allow the giving of the fidya going beyond the 1/3, then it will be permissible. It will be permissible because they give permission for their own wealth, because the inheritors are really the owners of this wealth. Now, the dead person, 1/3 of that wealth is still part of their right, as long as it is a valid will. Now, if the person did not leave a wasiyah, then Maulana Shafari Tanbi rahmatullahi alayhi says, of course, it will not be essential now to pay the fidya from the wealth of the deceased, because they did not leave a wasiyah. But if the people agree, they can do so. If the inheritors agree, they can do so. Or now the person can use other wealth, inshallah, and pay the fidya on behalf of their parents, children, etc., and hope and make dua and hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts it. But this is not something that is compulsory. This is not something that is compulsory. In the next day's session, inshallah, we will deal with those for whom it is permissible to delay the fast. Not everyone will be capable of fasting at that particular time, but it will be permissible for them to delay the fast. In the next day's session, inshallah, we will deal with those people upon whom the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam allowed to delay the fast, and they will have to make it up after. And again, we will deal with those ahadith, inshallah, wherein the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam upon journey, he mentioned the allowance to fast, and he also mentioned the permission to break the fast. We will continue next day, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أشكو